is up, everybody? Welcome back. Woodward Bets in the house here on a Tuesday night. Beer and Scott back at it. Plan for today's show. We will recap Monday Night Football, everything we saw. Take some looks at Week 11 in the NFL. Update some of the injuries. Take a look at some of the early lines. Of course, we'll break down the NBA as well. Just a couple games on the docket and the show of their best bets. And we have a special interview coming up as well. So stay tuned for that. Scott, my man, how are we doing on this fine Tuesday night?
Can't complain at all. It's a nice fall day. It's not as cold as it's been finally. We actually have the sun beating down us a little bit today, which definitely helps the mindset when the sun's out. When it's like gray and gloomy out and it's like that for days, it just everybody seems to be in a shitty mood. So when that sun's out, seems like the smiles are out as well. So hey, and plus, maybe we can get us some lunch money today. We got to get us some lunch money. Yesterday we were 3-2 with our best bets, Chris, but I snuck in a couple of them there with NBA. Was 2-0 on NBA, and then I had the under the NFL game. And damn, Chris, I still can't believe what we saw yesterday with that Rams team. Man, Stafford, I think it's a good time for me to re-up on my Rams bet to win the Super Bowl while they're down a little bit here. I still believe they got a really good shot. So these last couple losses here, I think I'm going to have to check that out now I think about it.
Yeah, it's the old buy the dip. People love to throw that term around, and you can certainly put that into play here as well. The Rams clearly not looking like the Rams we saw earlier in the season, losing big to San Francisco. Very impressive game for the Niners. It kind of controlled the game on the ground, couple early turnovers by Matthew Stafford, and a lot of people, the Stafford haters, were out in full force last night seeing some of those interceptions. But the first one wasn't really his fault. Odell Beckham's only been there for about 5 minutes, doesn't complete the route, so it's gonna take a while. I mean, you lose Robert Woods, you're trying to work Odell Beckham in, you're trying to work Von Miller in. It's gonna take them some time, but I promise you that they'll be one of the teams that's there at the end. So. Thoughts on the game last night? Obviously, most people were on the Rams, expecting them to bounce back, kind of roll this San Francisco team, but huge game out of Deebo Samuel, George Kittle finding the end zone, San Francisco able to control the game on the ground. So just overall thoughts of Monday night, kind of a surprising output to most people, I'd assume.
One thing I kind of noticed with the Rams was, here they got Von Miller. I mean, he's like right in the middle of that defense, obviously, integral part. And, and then here they added Odell, obviously, the big news there. But it's going to take a little bit for that offense and defense to get back in sync here, adding two players like that. I mean, they are going to be able to step up, but it just does seem like the backups for the Rams, they're so thin on the second string, because they've got so much money tied up in their first stringers. They lose a guy or two, it's trouble for them. So, but kudos to San Fran. I was actually surprised how well they ended up getting after Stafford. They were one of the worst teams in getting quarterback hits before that game, and then all of a sudden here they just beat Stafford up pretty good. They were constantly racking havoc with them. So kudos to them. But I will say Deebo Samuel's good. I mean, I think that guy here is definitely one of the guys so far. I mean, if you got him in a season-long league or anything else, I mean, you're probably doing really well with him. I mean, that guy is, for in an offense that just isn't, that prolific. I mean, that guy is definitely performing. So, gonna have to keep him in my radar, because it just seems like every week this dude's running down the sidelines for 30, 40-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, and they get him involved in a lot of different ways. We saw him on some jet sweeps. They'll get him the ball quickly, just put the ball in his hands, let him make plays. With his yard after catch ability, they'll throw to him down the field. A great rapport there, and it's kind of come at the expense of Brandon Ayuk, who we've seen kind of up, down, up, down, up. A young player, you kind of expect that. But Deebo has certainly been a staple for this lineup. Getting George Kittle back in that lineup, obviously, very helpful for that passing game. He can just create so much havoc, getting the ball in his hands. Even when you don't throw him the ball, he's going to clear out space, take away coverage from Deebo Samuel. The running game looks good, and Jimmy Garoppolo kind of managing the whole thing. We're all waiting for Trey Lance. When is it going to happen? Maybe it's not in the cards this year. Maybe Jimmy G is their guy for the remainder of this year if he can stay healthy. But they needed that win to kind of stay afloat. They were pretty much dead and buried. But they are back kind of in the mix. You'll start seeing the graphics, Scott. the old in the hunt. When they start throwing the
Yeah.
playoff graphics up, and one team you won't see on there, your Detroit Lions. So I just wanted to talk to you. I know you guys spoke about it yesterday, and I just wanted to see how you're feeling today about things. I mean, to go to Pittsburgh, get a tie, we could make fun of it, no doubt, but I want to give them some credit here. I mean, they were competitive. Sure, it's Mason Rudolph in Pittsburgh, and you look at it and say, should have won that game, had many opportunities to win that game. Both teams kind of fumbled things away and all kinds of mistakes, the field goal, yada, yada. But, I mean, you have a competitive game there. They go to the LA Rams and play pretty well in that game. They pretty much have an AFC playoff team beat at home in the Baltimore Ravens. I believe it was on the road in Minnesota. They were very competitive, probably should have won that game. So as bad as the record looks, and a lot of Dan Campbell talk around the industry, around the news, and you're going to hear a lot of, see the guy, should we get rid of him, yada, yada. I got to give them a little bit of credit for being at least competitive. Yes, you want wins. Yes, you want to see more. There's a lot. We could probably spend a week bashing this team and things we want to see be better. But all in all, you have to be a little bit encouraged by this team, even a little bit. Scott, can I get that, or is it you're out?
I'm out. I mean,
Fair
I'm
enough.
almost 50 years old. Ever since Barry Sanders left, it was like we've been double jinxed ever since. So, I just I'm not buying the close enough or just barely missed. I mean, we still haven't won a game. But like I said, that's what fantasy sports are for. And now I'm glad that we don't have to get stuck watching. Back in the day, you were stuck watching your only game, your hometown team on TV. We didn't have this luxury of having the NFL ticket and everything else on DirecTV, or these other networks. So at least we have that. But yeah, Chris, I can't buy into the Lions. I mean, they do have a couple bright spots, but I mean, we're a couple drafts away, but the good thing about the NFL is, which I think it's the easiest sport to turn around your franchise the quickest. So, you get in there, you get a couple high draft picks, and if they pan out, you can turn it around fairly quickly. So, I think the easiest way and best way is the upside at a draft. You got to get a quarterback. If you got to pay for a quarterback, it's going to cost you $30 million. You get one out of the draft. That's what happened with the Chiefs. They were on the luxury of playing the rookie salary for Mahomes. They got the load up on all kinds of different players at different positions that helped them out, and you got to go for that when you draft a guy at defense, whatever else, and quarter tight ends, and I mean the upside isn't there for you. I think you have to nail that quarterback at the top of these drafts to be able to flip your team around really quick. We've seen it now with the Arizona, with Kyler Murray, and Baltimore with when Lamar Jackson came in. It's just you got to have that quarterback to be able to turn it around real quick. So hopefully, Lions keep losing. Maybe there's that guy in the draft this year that can be there for the Lions. But until we get there, I'm not buying in. We're just going to get bounced around and kicked around the bottom of the NFL until we land somebody like that.
Oh, it's a long-term project, and we see that with every Detroit sports team right now. It's very awkward and weird that they're all kind of rebuilding at the same time. But are you the guy that wants them to win games, or are you the guy that wants them to lose all the games so that they get a higher draft pick? It seems to be two camps. The diehards still want the wins. They want to cheer on the team. They want to go to the game. They want to see W's in the win column that says, hey, we're getting there. We're building this thing the right way. Other people want the losses to mount up so they have that shot at a quarterback. I mean, show me a team that's good that does not have a good quarterback. It just doesn't exist. And the picks you talk about, Okudah, Hawkinson, those are luxury picks that teams make when they're already good. And I have the luxury of my team is solid already. I can draft a cornerback at number 3. I can draft a tight end in the top 10 because we're already good. We got everything else in place. I have that luxury. The Lions, unfortunately, don't have that luxury. So if you obviously some big misses and mistakes, not that Hawkinson's a bad player, just the Detroit Lions taking him at the time they didn't make sense. So win games, lose games. You got a strong stance on that, or you're just done. Don't care.
I like to let the season play out, but what bugs me is when we're at the end and we know everybody's talking, if they lose their next 2 games, we'll get the, number 2 pick or number 1 pick. And then what do, Chris? They'll go out and win some last second field goal game and knock them down to the 5th or 6th pick. And that's what the Lions do. I think that's the only thing frustrating about it. But when it gets to that point at the end, yeah, I root for them to lose at that point. Once it's like pretty much the path is clear for what could happen, then I will root for it. But especially if we know a player is good, like this year, there really isn't that outstanding player that we can say, oh, we got to have this guy. There isn't that guy that I feel. So we'll see what happens though. But they just need to keep drafting well, and just build from within. I kind of like, they're building within the line there. That's a good thing. I mean, Penny Sewell, I do like that. Hey, if you can't get that quarterback, whatever else, then build within the line. Get a guy that's going to be there for 10 years. I do like that kind of philosophy, but we'll see. The NFL is definitely short-lived. If some of these players are come and go, they're really quick. So a lot of fun, hopefully coming up here for the Lions and rebuilding. I mean, there'd be nothing more fun on a Sunday if the Lions were playing in some playoff games. I'm old enough to remember a couple of them, but I know a lot of these youngsters, they definitely don't remember those days.
Yeah, it's been a while, for sure. So we'll continue to look at the Lions here and see if they can pull off a win at some point. But again, I just think people are a little bit out ahead of things and wanting Dan Campbell fired already. And we're going to talk a lot about it, I'm sure, throughout the shows, throughout the weeks and months to come here at Woodward Bets, and you're going to hear it on a lot of the other shows here at the network as well. But wanted to bring that up real quick. So. Housekeeping stuff. Make sure that you guys are following our Twitter page at Woodward Bets. Want to make sure we continue to grow that. If you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe. Let your friends know. If you guys are enjoying the show, you're enjoying the winners. Scott gave you 3 winners last night. That's the way to tell us thank you, is to hit that thumbs up button and follow us on Twitter, again, at Woodward Bets. Make sure you're following the network at Woodward Sports. So plan for the week. We're going to continue this new theme we've had. We'll break down the entire NFL slate early. So we're going to do that on tomorrow's show. We're going to go game by game, look at some of our favorite plays, some of our favorite bets. We'll also do our KMA segment on Wednesday. So if you have anyone you're not happy about from last week, please send those in to us at Woodward Bets again. And then on Friday, like we do each and every Friday, we'll do your sit-start questions. You guys got questions. You're dealing with injuries. You're dealing with bye weeks. You got a trade you're not sure about, dynasty stuff, betting stuff, whatever it may be. We're going to pick the best 5 questions that we get. I'll read those live on the air. Saturday, we do our college football show. And then every Sunday, we're going to do a little live Q&A, which went pretty well last week. Had some great participation in the chat. So make sure you guys are getting up early and hanging out with us for an hour. We're, again, going to go through anything that changed from our analysis on Wednesday, kind of recap all the games, kind of give it a fine-tuning, Scott. Wednesday's always our initial look. Sunday, we're really digging in and giving you the plays you need, the bets you want, and things like that. So set that alarm clock every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Here at Woodward Sports, also, again, on YouTube. So, Scott, excited to get into things here for today. Again, today's plan, we're going to have an interview with Jeff from RT Sports. We utilize them a lot here on the show, looking at some of our waiver trends. So excited to talk about him, senior writer over there at RT Sports. So we'll get to him here momentarily. But Tuesday is always a day for us to kind of dig in and look into things. We'll save NBA for the end of the show. Very, very small slate of games here tonight. So we'll do that last, and of course end with our best bet segment. But Scott, before Jeff joins us, or is he ready to go here? We have Jeff. Sounds like Jeff. There he is. Jeff, welcome in to Woodward Bets. How we doing, my man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. So why don't you tell the people a little bit about RT Sports? I know there's a lot of places people can go to play fantasy, to find fantasy knowledge, things like that. So why don't you introduce yourself, tell them more about what you guys are doing over there, your platform, and just give the listeners some information about what you guys got going on over there.
Yeah, my name's Jeff Power. I'm the senior writer here at Real Time Fantasy Sports. We're a commissioner product first and foremost. That's our bread and butter. So if you want to run your league on a great site with a lot of in-depth stuff that you can do, more so than some of the other big sites out there. We cater to the dynasty leagues, especially keep track of everything for years, and we have all different sorts of things where you can trade draft picks and all that stuff. But Besides that, we also do money league games as well. We have huge contests. The fantasy championship is our big money contest, gives away $300,000. We also have a best ball championship. We have all different formats you can play in. We do DFS as well, and we do baseball, which is open now. You can start drafting your baseball if you want to do that. Some people are doing it already, if you can believe that. But we have all different sorts of things you can offer. We offer here at Real Time Fantasy Sports. So check us out. It's www.rtsports.com.
There you go, Scott. What are you getting questions for Jeff here? I'm going to turn things over to you. I know you're a big Scott's been telling me about RT Sports for a long time. So, Scott, you've been on the site, a user of the products over there. So, what do you got for Jeff here today?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun over there. I've been actually on the platform. We moved our home league over there, I want to say around 2009 or 10. So, I actually do like to use the RT Sports platform there, and they have different like little leagues, maybe $29.99, I believe they are. I think you can get 3 drafts for $75. They give you a little bit of a discount. So if you draft 3 teams, they're basically $25 a piece. You can get in there all different times of the night, and I used to like getting in there later because then you're in there with a bunch of West Coast guys, and you wouldn't get you'd get the hometown guys a little bit easier, or some of the other guys. You always knew out there in LA and the West Coast, if you knew what kind of draft you were doing, you always kind of know what guys they were looking for. But it was just fun to get in there and get a gauge where guys were going, how drafts would go. So that was before the best ball stuff even really came out. So I'd hop in there and I'd be in 18, 20, 21, 24 of those leagues. So I know, Jeff, on the front of my RT Sports, it says like 2009, 8-time champion, 5-time champion, 4-time, because of all the different leagues all the way across. But I do like the platform. They let you you can manipulate your different rules however you want. We really like it. It's a lot of fun. If you got any issues, you email them. They email you right back. They'll fix it for you. I know we've had a couple times where we've had to have something adjusted, but a lot of fun. And sheesh, you can even go back and check in 2010. The historical data is all right there. You can see who beat who. So we like to have fun and be like, man, the last 10 years, I'm 7-2 against Chris. Like we like to talk crap, and we're all high school buddies from way back in 1990 before we even had the internet and the computers. We used to send out letters and stuff to each other. So it's kind of cool now we can go back and check it all out. But wanted to have Jeff on because we always, I'm always on there. So we use the most picked up and the most dropped, Jeff. We use that usually on Wednesdays. It's a good gauge for us. I know, it does help a lot, for me to be able to see that, just think, maybe I can get away with not picking up this guy and maybe letting him slip through the waiver wire. So big help for me, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a great feature that we have on our site, just to see what everybody's doing out there in the community. And like you said, we have a lot of loyal followers on our site as well. So the more you play on our site, the more you'll get to know people as well, which I think is kind of fun. It's a little bit different than other sites, in my opinion, where you actually know people that you're drafting with a lot of the times because they're in so many drafts and they love to compete with each other. So yeah, definitely a great opportunity if you want to get in some other leagues to do it here at Real Time Fantasy Sports.
So, Jeff, give us a little bit more about your background. How long you've been doing it? How'd you kind of get into fantasy sports? Me and Scott, again, we go back to the newspaper days, pulling the stats by hand. I remember sitting in algebra class and teacher, what are you doing? I'm doing stats. I'm doing statistics. What do you want from me? I'm doing what you're asking me to do. But so we go that far back. Obviously, the internet age has made things a little bit easier. But how did you kind of get your start? How did you start with RT Sports? Kind of give us your background here and how you got going in the fantasy landscape.
Yeah, I'm the same way. That's still my favorite league is the one I'm in. Me and my brother have run a league since I was in college, and we did it on a word processor, hand delivered it to everybody in our league. And we basically have the same 90% of the guys that were in the league since the start of it. So that's how I got started with fantasy. But in the industry itself, I used to work at the Sporting News magazine when it was here in town. I'm in St. Louis. I'm a Midwest guy here, and I worked at the Sporting News, and I was in the books department, actually. I worked on a lot of the registers, baseball registers, which were really popular back in the day, but not so much anymore because of the internet. Everybody can just look at the stats on there now. So that's how I got started, was in the books department, actually. And then I moved on. I did a little writing with the Sporting News and started playing fantasy stuff with some of the guys there. And then I ended up writing a column for the fantasy baseball source is what it was called at the time on the Sporting News. So I did that for about 3 or 4 years, and then I caught on with the guys here at Real Time Fantasy Sports. I've been with them, I think it's 16 years now. So I've been doing this, but in the industry overall, I've been doing it for 20 plus years now. So I've been around for a while doing this stuff, and it's really changed a lot just because of social media and everything else. Just so much more available news at your fingertips. My job originally at the Sporting News was just writing player notes, where you'd search through all the different newspapers and you would look up different information, and it wasn't at your fingertips like it is now. Now, as soon as something happens in a practice, it's on Twitter and everybody can see it. So it's really changed a lot, but that's how I got my start. I've been doing it for a while, and I love it. I'll never in a million years complain about my job. I absolutely love what I do, and I love interacting with everybody on our site and all of the people that read my material and interact with me on Twitter.
Love to hear it. I see some Cardinal stuff back there. I'm a Brewers fan. You guys are always a thorn in my side. Somehow the Cardinals are always there. Is baseball your main sport? Football, clearly you got teams coming and going from St. Louis. So who's your favorite football team? So just give us a little background on your fandom here, who you follow outside of your fantasy teams.
For fantasy, I enjoy football the most, but baseball is probably what I follow the most when it comes to fandom. Big Cardinal fan, obviously. Big Blues fan as well. They're really popular in our hometown here. But the Cardinals, like you said, they're in it every year. We're kind of spoiled here. I'll admit it. I know some people are starting to get sick of the Cardinal fans. I realize it. But I'm a huge fan of the Cardinals, and I love them. When it comes to football, though, I like the Chiefs. I've kind of adopted them. I know we're on the other side of town here in St. Louis, but Kansas City's still in Missouri. My son's a huge Chiefs fan, so I've kind of adopted them as my team for now.
So Jeff, I got to ask you, here in Detroit, like I said, if you were watching a little bit before, we were talking about how our teams are rebuilding. So obviously, I've been a little critical of the Lions. I don't think they have the key pieces yet. So I think we got a little bit more ways to go. But now on the other hand, on baseball now, I think the Tigers are looking to be the new upcoming team here in Major League Baseball. I mean, they're talking about Correa took this little Tiger off his Twitter thing. Is that going to happen? Or we've heard it's done deal, just waiting for physicals to pass and blah, blah, blah. So if Correa comes here, we just add Erod, pretty good left-handed pitcher. And then we got these 2 young kids that everybody's talking about, Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green. So the Tigers are going to get a pretty good makeover here. So what do you think of the Tigers coming up as the future comes in?
Yeah, definitely. That rotation's scary. They got a lot of good young talent on that side. They're going to run 5 guys out there that are going to, they could light it up. A lot of strikeout potential when it comes to fantasy, if you're looking at that aspect. But man, I love that rotation. If they can add some pieces in that offense, Correa would be a great guy to get for them to help on that side of the ball. But that rotation is going to be really scary for years to come. Like you said, a lot of really good young talent in Detroit. So I think things are on the upswing finally for you guys up there in Detroit when it comes to the baseball team.
There you go, Scott.
Yes.
Maybe not so much with the Lions, but at least you get some Tigers love there.
Oh, there's nothing better here in Detroit, up here in the Midwest, when your team is good. We're in the hunt. It's July, it's August, and baseball game is on, and that's just a lot of fun. Even if you're not at the games, just to sit around the yard and turn the game on and listen to the game. I mean, that's how I kind of grew up, sitting around in the backyard with my grandpa, and he'd have his little transistor radio on, and we listen to Ernie Harwell. So, we're spoiled with some really good announcers. I know, you guys have a good one down there in St. Louis. We've always had, Ernie Harwell. We were spoiled for some years. So, I know Chris, you guys have, who's the Bob Uecker, so yep. We've been spoiled. So I miss the baseball, especially when we're good. The last few years been a little tough for the Tigers.
Yeah, it's these Detroit teams. They're getting there slowly. So yeah, I think the Tigers' future is bright. Let's talk about your Kansas City Chiefs, Jeff. Obviously getting things back on track a little bit. There was some worry there. Has everyone figured out Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill? And you had to love the game plan the other night. Mahomes looked great, taking what they were giving him. Teams are going with that double high safety, trying to take things away. He's hitting Kelsey underneath. He's hitting Darrell Williams underneath, and it's only a matter of time before Tyreek makes some big plays. So you still feeling good about the Chiefs? You think they're the favorite to go back to the Super Bowl here? Where are you there? Are you a pessimistic fan like Scott tends to be with his teams?
I don't know if I'm quite sold on them going back to the Super Bowl at this point. That Tennessee team's looking awful good, mainly because that defense has kind of turned it around. I know Derrick Henry's out. Obviously, that's a monster loss, but I actually went and saw that game with Kansas City and Tennessee a few weeks back as well, and Tennessee absolutely dominated that game. So I'm kind of sold on them right now. I do like Kansas City the way they're trending. Like you said, a lot smarter game plan. Mahomes kind of took what the defense gave them instead of trying to force things, make some of those crazy throws that he tends to get away with at times. But I thought the game plan was much better. Getting the running backs involved a little more as well. Darrell Williams. I'd love to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire get more work out of the backfield as a receiver like Williams has been lately too. So when he comes back, I think that could be a factor as well if they do that. So I'm encouraged by the way Kansas City's playing. Defense looks better with Chris Jones healthy along the line as well. That's a big plus for the defensive line. So that's a big positive for me as well, seeing that defense play better. But I'm not sure they're ready to go back to the Super Bowl for a third straight season.
A big test coming up this week. Get Dallas at home, so that'll be we've seen Dallas kind of do the same, up and down, but they certainly will look back last week in that win against Atlanta. So, Scott, anything else here for Jeff before we let him get out of here?
Yeah, Tennessee's 13-1 to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's some pretty good odds. They're about maybe 8th or 9th around there, depending on where you look. But Jeff, before we get out of here, since we do like to use the RT Sports most picked up players and most dropped players, we're going to talk a little bit here about some waiver pickups. Is there anybody here that before we let you go that are looking good for you? Maybe a few guys that you might want to talk about for this upcoming week here.
Yeah, definitely. Cam Newton's one guy I think's a good speculative ad. I know the quarterback position's deep, but that offense is really good in Carolina. So he kind of intrigues me to see what he can do. We saw he had just a couple touches last week, scored 2 touchdowns. He gets that, if you're Christian McCaffrey owner, you don't like it. He kind of vultures those touchdowns up around the goal line. But if you're a Newton owner, it's just fine. So I think he's a fine speculative ad, in my opinion, guy I might go grab. Wayne Gallman's another guy I know kind of shot in the dark. He had 15 carries last week, most work he's had all season. Mike Davis has been struggling, though. Cordarrelle Patterson's hurt as well, has an ankle injury. So Gallman could be playing a bigger factor in the coming weeks, and he's pretty much out there in every league on our site. And another guy, too, I feel like I talk about him every week on our site, and he's still not owned in over 50% of our leagues yet, and that's Dan Arnold with Jacksonville. That tight end position is just so up and down and not good right now, but he's one of the guys that's been consistent, double-digit fantasy points, 3 straight games, 4 or 5 as well. So he's a guy I would consider adding. And maybe a receiver, I didn't mention a receiver, another guy in Jacksonville, Jamal Agnew. He has double-digit fantasy points for the 4th time in 5 games as well. Last week, he did that last week. Didn't catch a ball, but he had 79 rushing yards. He's been a lot more involved offensively, not just a kick returner, but he's been involved out of the slot and getting a lot of work there. And he's available in a lot of leagues as well.
It's crazy with Jacksonville. We're all expecting it to be Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault, and it's Dan Arnold and Jamal Agnew, guys that have been very consistent. I agree. I've been on the Dan Arnold train for a while now. It's finally starting to pay off, and I love the Cam Newton call. Like you said, a quarterback pretty loaded, but that guy's got a lot of upside still. The passion is still there, and he gives you that rushing ability, which we know in today's fantasy landscape you got to have. So, Jeff, want to thank you so much for joining us. So we'll definitely have you back on future segments. So anything you want to plug here, socials, things like that, the floor is yours. Again, tell people about all the great stuff you guys got going on over there, any Twitter accounts, things like that you want to pass along.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. It's at Jeff Power, JEFFPAUR. You can see it on the screen there, how you spell my name. I post on there a little bit. And also, we have a YouTube channel as well. It's Real Time Fantasy Sports. I post a lot of videos on there, kind of similar to what you guys have here with your video segment. So just going over some different things for the week. And then at Real Time Fantasy Sports, like I said, there's all different games that we have to offer. And we're going to do some contests for Thanksgiving as well. We do a big Turkey Bowl contest where you pick the players in the Thanksgiving Day game and different price points you can get in for that as well. And that sells out every year. So definitely stuff you can do not only before the season, but during the season as well. And we have DFS also. So just go to rtsports.com and you can see everything we have to offer on there.
Awesome. Yeah, go guys. Make sure you go check it out and support Jeff and everything going on over there at RT Sports. So again, we appreciate you for joining us, Scott. Any final thoughts here for Jeff before we let him get on with his night here?
No, I've been following Jeff for a while. His articles are always posted on the front of RT Sports for everybody to read if you are in a league. So thank you, Jeff, for joining us. I've enjoyed your work over the years, so I just wanted to have you on and pass along to everybody the good work you guys been doing over there.
I appreciate it, Scott. Thanks to both of you for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
All right, Jeff, thanks a lot. Have a good one, and we'll see you down the line somewhere. Again, go check him out at Jeff Power on Twitter and RT Sports. Sounds like they got a ton of stuff going on over there. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
All right, Scott, let's get back into the meat of things here, and we got to talk injuries, of course, here on a Tuesday. We'll get some waivers as well. Jeff brought up some great names. We'll go over some of the names we think could be good ads for you, and then we'll take a look at some of the opening lines here in the NFL, see if there's anywhere we can attack, and we'll close out with NBA. So injuries, Arizona once again, top of the list, Kyler Murray. We'll see if he's able to return here. It sounds like another game-time decision for Kyler, so we're going to have to wait that one out. DeAndre Hopkins kind of in the same mix, so we'll see if they get them back. Saquon Barkley back at practice yesterday, so encouraging. If you're a Saquon Barkley owner, Giants fan, sounds like he's trending towards a return. Tua, looks like he's going to be back as the starting quarterback, Scott, so came in relief in that last game. Finger sounds like it's good enough to go where he can be back under center. Dallas Goedert, unfortunately, in the concussion protocol. We saw him leave that Week 10 game early against Denver, so we'll see if he's able to progress through things. Another big name, CeeDee Lamb, we saw have a huge first half and then have to leave the game dealing with an arm injury. Sounds like just a cramp, so he should be able to give it a go this week, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Baker Mayfield day-to-day with a knee injury. We saw him suffer against New England. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we heard Jeff bring him up. Sounds like he's going to be back for this game against Dallas. So as good as Darrell Williams has been playing, sounds like CEH could be back in that starting running back role. Aaron Jones of my Packers, Scott, this one, it could have been a lot worse. A knee injury, sounds like he's only going to miss a few weeks. So if you're holding an A.J. Dillon ticket, congrats. You win the running back lottery here for the next couple weeks. Should be in a great spot. And then obviously hometown, Jared Goff dealing with an oblique injury. We'll see if they want to go back to Goff here or try out some of these other quarterbacks. So I know there's a lot of people out there, Scott, saying we knew Jared Goff was not the answer. I don't know how you're surprised by this. You know, when they made the trade, I think there was way less people that were excited about Jared Goff, no doubt. But people shocked that he's not a great quarterback. He of the tiny hands, the turnovers, the guy can't throw the ball. You're just stuck with him, unfortunately, here for a couple of years, which is good. If you are the guy that wants him to lose games, he's certainly going to help you do that. So any thoughts on these injuries? Again, it's early in the week. We'll continue to update this as we close towards Thursday night football, towards Sunday. But any thoughts on kind of this initial injury report here for Week 11?
Yeah, you got that right about the lottery ticket with A.J. Dillon. Definitely, if you're holding on to him, you're happy for these next couple of weeks at least. But Barkley coming back is interesting as well. I'd like to see Barkley come back here. You know, we've been obviously without him for majority of the season, but the whole Goff thing, yeah. I mean, you got to just remember we got some draft pick. We got a pretty good haul for Stafford. Even without Goff, we would have been happy. And just imagine if we didn't have him, we would have probably had to gone out and sign God knows who would have been the quarterback, and it would have been even worse. So, you can't fault the guy. The guy doesn't have any receivers that are hardly getting any separation. I mean, they did get a boost here with Taylor Decker coming back, and then he's all upset that, we were people in the media are talking about trading him. Come on. You think I'm questioning your intelligence if you're going to get traded to a better team and leave the Lions, and you're upset about that. I mean, come on, Taylor, don't, we're not foolish, but either way, the Lions with Goff, if they play Blau, it's going to be way worse. So, Chris, we just got to keep remembering we got all them draft picks, so something to build upon. So that's what we need. I'm not too worried about what's going on now.
Keep losing games. I get it. As a fan, you want them to win games, but if you want this thing to get better, you got to do it the right way. The right way is you're not tanking. You're not good enough to win games, so you don't even have to tank, but continue to root for the losses. Now, is there a quarterback in this draft that is generational? I don't see anybody that is a big-time difference maker, like the Peyton Mannings, Andrew Lucks of the world, but it's got to be better than Jared Goff. So continue to lose games. I think they're going to continue to do that, obviously, and be in the running for one of them top picks. And even if not, there's some pretty good defensive players. You can start to build that side of the ball if you go that route. So a lot of ways you can go continuing to lose games. And Decker's comments, I know that was a topic of debate in our little Slack channel here at Woodward Sports this morning. So we'll see if anything comes of that. But I could certainly see them trying to move on from him as well. I know there was some talk about it before the trade deadline. What do you do with Sewell, left, right side? So that's going to continue to be a topic as well that we'll have to discuss as we go throughout the offseason here. So let's look at some of the ads for this week. First, couple more updates here. Le'Veon Bell was let go by Baltimore to nobody's surprise. Probably it for Le'Veon, unfortunately. Great career with Pittsburgh, a local guy here. Also, Ben Roethlisberger sounds like he'll be good to go if he's cleared from the protocols from COVID. So we'll see if Pittsburgh, obviously, ready for Ben Roethlisberger to come back after that debacle last week. So let's take a look. Some of the free agents we think you should be grabbing this week. Jeff hit on a lot of them, and we kind of agree. Cam Newton, we'll see. Scott, I think it's only a matter of time before he's in there over P.J. Walker. I mean, Sam Darnold sounds like he's done for the year. Even if he does come back, he hasn't done much over the last few weeks. In fact, he's really held this offense down. When you look at some of the pieces here, I mean, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey, this offense should be much better. Are you a believer in Cam Newton here? Again, the quarterback position, a lot of options, a lot of ways you can go. You can generally stream this position. Do we get Cam returning to his former glory here? Is he a priority ad for you this week if you need a quarterback? Even if not, do you want to stash him and just see what happens?
I can understand, wanting to pick him up if you're really desperate, but I don't think it's I don't think that you really want to dump a mid-level quarterback for this guy, because I don't think the passing upside's ever really going to be there. He may run one in or two, but in reality, I do think Cam is going to be motivated. I made fun of him, Chris, and said that's like putting spoiled milk back in the fridge, bringing him back. But he hopefully he's motivated. I always thought that Cam Newton, I thought the talent's there, but it seemed to me once he got in that wreck on the bridge that he had, the car wreck, it seemed like it was like he's seen, like the Jesus or something. Like he was just, afraid to step on a bug, or like he was a different dude. I can't explain it. Like his fire was gone. So maybe, getting let go and maybe realizing his career is over and having to sit out and bringing him back here to Carolina, somewhere he's comfortable. Maybe he is motivated, but I mean, if he does do well and takes a pretty decent Carolina team with a good defense, good running back, I mean, he's got some decent receivers. I mean, he's got everything in place. I mean, if he gets them into a position where they're in some meaningful games, maybe he gets a contract. I don't know. So he's definitely playing for something in the future.
Yeah, for me, it's more of a, you're in a 2-quarterback super flex type league, or you're in a super deep bench league, then maybe. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure you probably have better alternatives at the quarterback position. I'm not so sure they're going to turn the keys over to him. I think eventually they will, but do you really want to sit on Cam Newton for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before they do that? So we'll see. They got the win with P.J. Walker, with Cam Newton sprinkling in. Maybe he's their Taysom Hill here for a couple weeks. I'm just not going to go out and rush. I think he's, again, an ad if you're in a deeper league, a super flex league, or you're that desperate. There are leagues out there, there's not quarterbacks just sitting on the waiver wire. So I do think he does give you upside because of his running ability, but not a priority for me. As far as running backs go, back to our ads list here, Wayne Gallman, like Jeff brought up, a guy that's going to get some looks in that Atlanta backfield. A.J. Dillon, still out there in almost half a league, so he's going to step right in and be very productive here with this Green Bay offense. And Ramondre Stevenson, who knows what happens here with Damian Harris, but New England running backs, as frustrating as they are, Scott, they're always guys you kind of want to hang on to, because a guy could go from the scrap heap to a guy putting up a monster performance like we saw out of Ramondre last week. So these three guys, I think, are the priority pickups here at the position. Latavius Murray's out there in some leagues. He's intriguing. Do you have a priority, an order that you want these guys in? And we get it. Some of your leagues, Dylan, may be rostered already. But if these three guys are out on the waiver wire, Scott, who is your priority here out of the three?
Yeah, Dillon would be number one for me, Stevenson two, and then I'd probably go Gallman three. I just think as many points as New England's been scoring lately, I mean, for him, the chance to fall in the end zone is definitely high. And I know, Chris, you and I do play some DFS. I was checking some of your teams, and kudos to you being one of the few 4% that did play Stevenson last week in your DFS team. So I would definitely go Dillon, Stevenson, and Gallman. And I don't rank Stevenson too much further behind Dillon, actually.
Yeah, that one's close for me. I'm going to give the edge to Dillon. Stevenson's right there, though, and we talked about him on our Sunday morning show. So make sure you guys are joining us for that. Just felt like, yeah, there was some risk with Belichick, but we didn't feel like Brandon Bolden was going to get a full workload as a running back. So it's kind of information you're going to get joining us on Sunday morning. But yeah, I prefer Dillon. I like Ramondre. I'm still a little iffy on Gallman, but again, I always say you can never have enough running backs. So wide receivers, not as many great options this week, Scott. We saw Marcus Johnson with the Titans play well, put up a ton of yards in that game. Michael Gallup may still be available in some leagues. Elijah Moore. Just really depends on your league size here. Jamal Agnew, a guy Jeff brought up. So not a ton of guys. Brian Edwards, we saw had a good game finally for the Raiders. So any additional thoughts at receiver? Not the best week for a wide receiver here.
Yeah, I can't really say this other than the guys you mentioned. Maybe St. Brown against the Browns this week for the Lions. I mean, it's just, I mean, if you're that desperate and you need somebody that's going to get some opportunities, the Browns are really not that good against wide receivers, top 10 in receptions. So maybe somebody like that if you're really desperate. But yeah, wide receiver is definitely thin this week.
Yep, same with tight end. Not a ton of guys out there. Jeff brought up Dan Arnold. I agree. If somehow he's still out there, he's definitely a priority. We saw Tyler Conklin have a nice game last week, so he's out on a lot of leagues. Logan Thomas is going to come back eventually, so he could be another one. Gerald Everett with Russell Wilson back. So there are some options. I mean, nothing you're writing home about, but those would be the guys I would be looking at. As far as streamers go, kicker, Chris Boswell, Gonzalez, and then defense, Scott, I think Miami could be in play here this week. So anything to add here? We'll update this again tomorrow. Most of my leagues go through waivers tonight, so I'll kind of update boots on the ground, what I saw, some of the bids, and then we'll add anyone we didn't talk about today that we find intriguing. We've tried to hit on the majority of them here on Tuesday. We know a lot of your guys' leagues waivers run tonight. So anyone else here, Scott, final thoughts here on some waiver ads for week 11?
No, not really anybody else that we didn't mention, but just make sure you guys are always paying attention. Get involved. Make sure you guys are always involved on your league's waiver wire. Because I will say, Chris, we got a team, and I was looking at my hometown league in my home league, and we got a couple teams that really weren't putting as much effort at the beginning of the season. And all of a sudden, add a guy or two. Now some of these guys are coming back that have been injured, and their teams are looking really good. Maybe the guys that had the Devontae Adams, the Aaron Rodgers teams, and some of these other guys. So all of a sudden, some of these bottom dweller teams with some of these injuries and stuff that has happened, the teams that had the Henrys that are out in the lead, and all of a sudden they're struggling. So make sure you're out there and get involved in your waiver wire. Don't give up. You never know. You could sneak in. Some of these teams are going to go on losing streaks here. That's just what always happens. So just make sure you're always involved in your waiver wire.
Absolutely. And even if you're not, keep the competitive balance in the league. If you're not in the running, still be involved. Still make the games competitive. Don't be the guy that just cashes it in. But, Scott, I'm sure you've been in many leagues. I know I have, where somebody just comes from the bottom and they make the right pickups and they have running backs you never heard of that go on a tear, and they end up going all the way and winning fantasy championships. I have seen it over and over and over. So it's not always the 9-0, 10-0 teams that always roll to the title. Sure, a lot of leagues, that's how it plays out, but it's generally the guys that are active on the waiver wire, making the right pickups, and there's still guys out there that can make a difference. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson may be a league winner. A.J. Dillon may be a league winner. Like Scott said, don't be asleep at the wheel. Continue to be aggressive. This is how you win leagues. So hopefully those names help you guys out in your season-long league. Scott, let's take a look at some of the early lines here in the NFL. We love to do this every Tuesday and just see if there's anything that looks off, anything that we want to attack here. So a lot of choices here on the screen, Scott. Is there anything here that you want to jump on, get out ahead of here with these games this week?
Yeah, I'm going to look at the Browns -10 before that gets to 14 against the Lions, because there's no way with that offensive line the Browns have. I mean, we've talked about it over and over how great the Browns are. It doesn't matter who's running the ball for them. Chris, I think you could get 100 yards this week against the Lions behind that Browns.
Whoa.
I think you could. I've seen your moves. You got some moves. I think you could do it. So I think that's in play. I think the 10 in Cleveland is a little too cheap. But hey, guess what? If the Lions do win and the Sparties win, we could have 2 Michigan teams whoop some Ohio teams' ass in Ohio this weekend. So that'd be kind of nice to see that happen. But either way, just moving on to Chris, I do like San Francisco here minus the 6.5 against Jacksonville. I'm not really buying into Jacksonville at all. And we did see a really good game. Now, I'm not going to buy in either that, they played and I got a short week. They had a really tough game. I don't think Jacksonville is that good. And I think the 49ers are playing really well, especially getting Kittle back. So before that gets to a touchdown, I might look at the 49ers going down there to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I don't hate that one. Jacksonville, was competitive this week against Indianapolis, but I think San Francisco is going to be able to run the ball in that one. One I really like this week, we talked Cam Newton. I really like Carolina here, -2.5 at home against Washington. Not only because they just played well, but more of it has to do with Washington, who just put pretty much everything they had into beating the Tampa Bay Bucks. I mean, that was a big game for them. Coming off of that playoff loss last year was an epic game. They come back and they beat them. And I know you have the whole Ron Rivera going back to Carolina, the thing you could bring up, but I just like the way this Carolina team is bouncing back here. Even if it is PJ Walker, they're going to work Cam Newton in the lineup. You got McCaffrey back in that lineup. I just think the spread a little bit too low. So not a ton that jumped off the page. Usually I have 3 or 4 different ones that I want to attack, but combing through everything, this is really the one I could see kind of going to 3.5. So jumping on it before it does that. But Carolina at home, I think handles Washington this week pretty easily. So that's what I will go with for my early look. So Scott, anything else here? Any totals? I know we have a lot of spreads and totals aren't even on the board yet with some of the injuries. We'll continue to look at this throughout the week. You don't have to do this just on Tuesday. You can still get out ahead of things. A lot of times things move very quickly, but it's not always, there's always some room still to make some moves. So anything else here that you want to jump on early in the week?
I will say, though, just looking at this New England-Atlanta game, you got them at -5.5 early, and you got 46.5. I actually like New England minus the 5.5 and the over as well. New England's been putting up 30 points almost every week here quietly. They're not, they're not as prolific as some of these other teams, but you look at the box scores, 30 points, 30 points, 40 points, 40 points. Mac Jones, they're running efficient offense. You mentioned, how well Stevenson's been doing recently. And I do think Atlanta is going to be able to throw. Matt Ryan's been throwing pretty well. So we'll see what happens there, but I don't mind the over in that one, and definitely like how the New England's been playing. I don't think that, the press is all over them. Quietly, you just kind of see them just marching. And I think they're one of the best teams in the AFC, somebody that we got to consider that could be there at the end.
Yeah, you brought up that New England line. That one looks like it's already gotten up to -7 at a lot of places. So you may have missed your opportunity there, but I agree. New England playing very well. One more, I'm actually, after looking through these, I like the Jets here at home against Miami. I mean, the Miami Dolphins, -3.5 point favorites. I know the Jets have been terrible here, but at home in the division, I don't think Miami's been very good at all. I know they had a nice win in that last game, but these are 2 very, very bad teams. I think the Jets with the points at home make a lot of sense here. As ugly as it sounds, and as good as Miami was to me the other night against Baltimore, I think I like the Jets here getting the 3.5 points. So wouldn't be surprised to see that kind of close around 3. You always want that 3.5 if you can. And we know 3 is a key number in the NFL. How many games end on a field goal? So if I can grab that 3.5 while it's still out there, I certainly want to do that. So, Scott, let's talk some NBA. to wrap up today's show. Again, just a 3-gamer. We got Golden State at Brooklyn, Philadelphia at Utah, and the Spurs traveling to take on the Los Angeles Clippers. So I always talk about DFS. I prefer 5, 6, 7 games, but 3 is obviously better than 1 or 2. So let's give the people some DFS plays for tonight. Who are you looking at? Who's going to be in your NBA DFS lineups tonight on FanDuel, DraftKings, and wherever else you guys are playing your daily fantasy sports?
Yeah, obviously, like we always talk about, you got to pay attention to last-minute news. But good thing, Chris, the Brooklyn Nets already announced that Joe Harris is not going to start. So I'm going to expect Patty Mills probably will get that start. So he may be a guy that you might want to look at for a cheap type play. And then also just kind of looking around, Tobias Harris. I mean, just coming off COVID, he's only 7,700 on FanDuel. I think he's a guy that you definitely got to look at playing here tonight. And then just kind of spinning around some optimizers. A lot of Clippers are coming up there, Chris. You got Reggie Jackson, Paul George, and then Isaiah Hartenstein is a pretty cheap guy that's popping. Rudy Gobert is coming up in a lot of different center spots. And then Derek White is another guy in that Clipper game, a cheap guard to throw in there as well.
Yep, Clippers got to keep an eye out on the injuries. We'll see if Terrence Mann is able to give it a go, dealing with a left ankle sprain. So we'll check on him. You mentioned Harris. Danny Green out for Philadelphia, so that'll open up some minutes. Embiid, obviously, the big name there, he won't play. So Andre Drummond becomes a priority once again. You mentioned Harris. I think Maxey without Danny Green is important. No Jakob Poeltl for San Antonio. So that could be more Thaddeus Young, Drew Eubanks. So those are not a ton of injuries, obviously, on a 3-gamer, but those are some guys that could certainly benefit. As far as the plays go, I like the Tobias Harris call for sure. Derek White, definitely valuable. I think Blake Griffin, talking about Detroit, very cheap across the injury industry, so he could be in play. And on the high end, I think you got to go with Kevin Durant here, Scott. Going back to Golden State, this is a guy that carries that chip on his shoulder, a huge spot here. So even if you do a little stack of that game, everybody is going to be taking that one personal. So sure, Steph Curry, Durant, those guys are expensive, but I love starting my lineups that way, maybe working in some of the cheaper pieces in that game. And there'll be a ton of value with some of these higher end injuries that we talked about. So that one I think is going to have a lot of fireworks, but Kevin Durant highlights the list. If you're spending up tonight, I am doing it on KD. So let's wrap up the show, Scott, with our favorite portion of the show, our best bets segment here. So looks like just NBA to choose from tonight, unless you want to dip your foot into the college basketball pool. But best bets for Tuesday night, Scott, what do we got?
Yeah, I only have one so far tonight. If I find any others, I'll definitely be sure to get it out there on the Woodward Bets Twitter. But Chris, the only thing I have, you already mentioned this Golden State and Brooklyn Nets game here. I'm going to go the over 222 in this game at this point. I just think, as you mentioned, I think you're going to see Curry is going to be out, and he's going to be wanting to score. I think you're going to see a game that's going to go back and forth between two of the best players in the NBA. So I like this one here to go over the 222.
All right, over in that one. I'm going to stay in that game, but I'm going to go spread-wise. I'm taking Golden State in this one. I think Brooklyn's going to have a lot of backers here at home, but I like the way Golden State's been playing, off to a red-hot start here. So I can get them. It's +3 at most spots, so that's what I'll put down for my best bet. There is a 3.5 at BetMGM. If you can find a 3.5, clearly that's preferred, but I really like them. I'm going to give you one other one here. Just I don't want to hit every game here tonight. Don't like much in that Spurs-Clippers game. Everything seems about where it should be. But I really like the over 216 in that Philadelphia-Utah game. And I know Philadelphia missing a lot of offense, no doubt. But Utah's a team that can put 130, 140 points on the board. And I do think some of these guys, Maxey, Harris, will be able to do enough offensively to keep this game close and to get us over that total. So just 3 picks for us here tonight, just a limited slate of games. I'm not going to dig into college basketball yet. I haven't spent a ton of time with college hoops yet. I certainly will be digging into that as the season progresses. But 3 best bets on the board here for Tuesday night. So, Scott, hopefully a 3-0 night, and we're counting that lunch money tomorrow. But we want to thank you guys for joining us. As always, we know you got a lot of choices out there. We appreciate you hanging out here with the Woodward Bets crew here on the Woodward Sports Network. Scott, final thoughts for the people here for Tuesday night. What do we got?
I got some lunch money. We do have a little college basketball. My number 6 Wolverines will be seeing Seton Hall. I did look at a little bit of college basketball, but as you said, I'm not really honed in yet. I don't want to be giving out any kind of plays to the people that I'm really not too sure about. So I like to wait until generally, Chris, when we start getting around the conference time. It seems like you get a little bit better idea what's going on in these early games here. Coaches are trying to find their rotations yet, and they're still trying to tinker and play with some things. And I'm always of the mindset, as I mentioned on the show, like with Izzo, I think he likes to suffer a few losses here as learning experiences for these young guys to build on throughout the year. So, I'll wait till the conference season gets going here before I get into college basketball.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just with NFL going on, NBA getting underway, there's only so much time in a day, unfortunately. So I love college hoops. March Madness, my favorite sporting event that there is. I mean, you get weeks and weeks of great games, great betting. So we will definitely dig into more college hoops as we go along here at Woodward Bets. But again, thank you guys for listening. Enjoy the games tonight. So not a ton of NBA action, but should be some fireworks, ton of college basketball action. We'll be back tomorrow breaking down the entire NFL slate top to bottom with our initial look here every Wednesday. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Send us your KMA. Who pissed you off this week? Is it Taylor Decker? Is it whoever it may be? Anthony Davis. Scott has some harsh words for. So we'll see who's chapping Scott's ass tomorrow. But if you want to get on that, send us your KMA. We do that every single Wednesday. So thank you again for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Woodward Bets. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button and subscribe over on YouTube. For Scott, for our boys Spencer and Easy behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Good luck with your bets tonight, guys. Thank you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.